scenery, of course, is stunning with the skyline of Bogota. I know nothing about Bogota, and I've only been out once, and that was an adventure. And I shall go out again this afternoon to find a supermarket. Everything is new, and everything is kind of exciting. I inserted this video at the front of this vlog just as something positive, because in this vlog there are about 10 different challenges and negative situations. Here they are. So in general, I don't consider myself to be a negative person. Just to prove my point, these two sisters who were TikTokers, yes, started a conversation with me, talked to me, and here's what they said. This was today, February 7th, 2025.
Tú, alegre.
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 ¿Qué es alegre?
Alegre, feliz. Ja, ja,
Oh,
ja.
okay.
Okay.
Tú, happy.
Happy.
Oh, happy.
Sí, no está.
Now let's get going with the first vlog from Colombia, which I call British Columbia to Colombia. Getting there con muchas dificultades. Warm January 2025 weather shatters dozens of BC records. I can vouch for that because we live in the James Bay region of Victoria at the very bottom of Vancouver Island, which is noted for its mild climate, and we saw no evidence of any snow in January. Disclaimer number one, if my sound sounds a little different from my previous vlogs, it's because I'm using the internal mic on my MacBook Pro. I'm traveling, so I can't take along that big lug of a microphone. That all changed on or about February 2nd when we had a snowfall. It wasn't massive, but we had a snowfall. Fast forward to February 3rd when I was to leave from Victoria International Airport to fly to Bogota, Colombia. There is snow now, and in Victoria, that's a big deal. And it was a big deal for me, as you'll find out shortly. My vlogs for the longest time were Travels with Lobo and Barbara. It was great. In her quest for self-actualization, she has developed many interests, and traveling with me might not be a priority anymore. We both understand and accept that, so here we are. Second disclaimer, although I should have learned this by now, I'm using the iPhone 14. I'm using the front-facing camera, and I don't know where to look, but I should be looking at a little green light at the extreme right of the screen. So every time I look at the big screen at myself there, I'm looking at the wrong place. So I got to remember, look at the little light on the right. Every trip starts somewhere, and this trip is no exception. I'm in Victoria, British Columbia. It's February the 4th, and I have a flight scheduled for Toronto. Now, my ultimate destination is Bogota, Colombia. That's my destination, and I'm flying there via Toronto, Houston, and then Bogota. I arrive in Bogota tomorrow morning at 6 o'clock. Now, I had a false start yesterday that I sat in a plane here at this very airport for 4 hours, waiting for the flight to depart because of bad weather. It never did, and we were debarked after 4 hours. So this morning I'm trying again. I'm hoping it will be a go this time. This is Travels with Lobo. Before I go away, I guess I should also deal with a question that's important. Why do I keep vlogging when practically nobody views my videos? I should correct that. There was once upon a time, 10 years ago, when I did a video from Tokyo that got 250,000 views. The best, I guess, was when Google News picked up one of my videos from Myanmar. But that was then, and this is now. Okay, in brief, the answer to the question is I vlog to preserve my travel memories. As I aptly said in a previous vlog, I'm vlogging to taste life twice, in the moment and especially in retrospect. The second day, there was much more optimism as I actually walked the causeway to the plane. Yeah, that's the beautiful plane that I got on. Unfortunately, they started the same game with delays and de-icing and 2 hours went by, another 2 hours went by, and I really feared the same thing repeating itself as the previous day. But after 2 hours, lo and behold, we finally did get going and flew smoothly across most of Canada from Victoria to Toronto in 4.5 hours. It actually went by quickly because Air Canada's planes have these entertainment centers or screens in front of you. You can watch movies and your progress and so on. Makes time go by quickly. In Toronto, I was to catch a United Airlines flight to Houston and then another connection to Bogota. That did not happen because of the 2-hour delay. I missed the connection to this flight to Houston. Oh man. But in the meantime, Air Canada had already booked me on a direct flight to Bogota on Avianca, which is the national airline of Colombia. So I was flying Avianca at 11 o'clock at night. Now, the extra waiting time I had allowed me to eat at Swiss Chalet at the airport, which was really fabulous because they closed down in British Columbia. I really loved their meals, and I had a half a chicken, fries, coleslaw, like the whole 9 yards. It was a great meal. I couldn't even finish it. Now, 2 hours before the flight, I went to the Avianca counter at the Pearson International Airport in Toronto, and I found out that I couldn't fly. That was a shocker, and part of the travel experience. This has happened to me before. I found out that to go to Colombia, you have to have a return ticket. I had a one-way ticket. To clarify that, you had to have a ticket out of Colombia within 90 days. What surprised me totally is they absolutely insisted they could not let me on that flight if I did not have a ticket, period. At that point, I had no other choice than to go into my problem-solving mode, and I found a quiet place, and I went to the Avianca website on my phone, and I looked for the cheapest flight that I could find, and that was to Quito, Ecuador. And I got a price there for $125 US. That was incredibly reasonable. The problem was, try as I might, I could not finalize the transaction with my credit card. It just would not work. That left me going back to the Avianca counter where in desperation, I said, "Can't you do it from your system?" And they did. But the problem was that the price to Kyoto was about $150 more than the internet price I had but couldn't get. So the whole thing cost me $350 just to get the right to fly to Bogota. Do I tell you now or do I tell you later? When I went through immigration at the airport in Bogota, nobody asked about a return ticket or a return date. Unbelievable. But I was aware of this check MIG form for travelers to Colombia. And so I went to my iPhone and I went to this site and had it filled out and was charged $65 for it. I believe this is a private enterprise that's doing this, and that's why they're charging $65. If you can somehow get to the official government site, you don't pay $65. But I never found that government link. Even then, the immigration officer at the airport never asked for this form. I volunteered and gave it to him. It's all a joke. Now, the Avianca flight left on time around 11 o'clock from Toronto and flew into the night. I'd like to show you the route, but the Avianca planes are kind of a budget version of what you find in Western Airlines. There's no entertainment center or information center on the back of the seat. So you're bored stiff until 4:30 in the morning. Speaking of the seats, they were just aligned incorrectly, giving no headrest support. It was incredible, so uncomfortable. In addition, I happen to be one of those unfortunate people who cannot sleep on an airplane. Oh man, that's a long flight. This photo that I found on the Avianca website shows a guy eating a meal, smiling greatly. This was incredible. The only thing they sold on this plane was things you had to pay for. Nothing was free. They said if you wanted water, you could get it at the back of the plane. The flight crew seemed to do some heavy-duty sleeping near the end of the flight. It was the poorest show of service I have seen. Avianca, what's going on? And by the way, the guy in the photo has a decent headrest, but yet the seat beside him doesn't. But what's going on? The interior of my aircraft looked like this, with not a decent headrest in sight. I apologize for not giving a positive review to Avianca Airways, but hey, that was my experience, and I'm not finished with them yet. My experience at the passport control was all positive. The officer was friendly, spoke English, didn't ask for a return flight, didn't ask for visa or anything else. I was through there in one thing. But one more thing, there was a special line for Canadians, believe it or not. The special lines for Canadians was because Canada charges Colombians visiting Canada $100. So $100 is what every Canadian visitor has to pay, except if you're over a certain age that I don't want to mention, and I'm over that certain age that I don't want to mention. I didn't have to pay the $100. So my ticket, I guess, was maybe $100 less, $250. There was a positive note about Avianca or maybe Air Canada, but my original flight was to Houston. My luggage was headed that way. And somehow my luggage ended up with me at Bogota Airport. Hey, what a relief. Now, one of the first things you do at the airport after picking up your suitcase is to find an ATM and withdraw these astronomical sums, which are the Colombian peso. I ended up withdrawing 500,000 Colombian pesos, which is $173 Canadian and 31 cents. Hard to believe. I ended up making a young German traveler's day when I had difficulty inserting my card into the machine. I couldn't figure out why. Then I realized that someone had left their bank card in there. That's why I couldn't get mine in. I quickly grabbed the card and tried to find the traveler, and I did about 200 yards down the way. As I say, he was beyond happy. I made his day. I hope if that happens to me, somebody makes my day. At 5:30 in the morning, finding myself outside El Dorado Airport in Bogota, I took the easy way. I took a taxi. I could have taken a bus, but I was too tired and knackered as the British say. And so I ended up paying $35 for the taxi to take me to my Airbnb. And that's where I made this great video. And I'll just end it right there with that video. February the 5th, 2025, my first day in Bogota. I notice already that the weather changes quickly here. It was a cloudy day, but mostly sunny, and yet here in the afternoon, rain. Quite different from Mexico here, insofar as the temperature is much, much lower, which can be pleasant. The scenery, of course, is stunning with the skyline of Bogota. I know nothing about Bogota, and I've only been out once, and that was an adventure, and I shall go out again this afternoon to find a supermarket. Everything is new, and everything is kind of exciting.